What's up, y'all? Good morning. I'm gonna go ahead and do this live real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my intro out the way. Anybody that doesn't know, I'm part of Breaking the Chains. My name is Joseph. I'm from Kent County, Maryland, Eastern Shore. I recently moved to Houston, so that's where I live at now. Um, so basically, what Breaking the Chains is, it's basically a nonprofit organization that Jewel and myself started a couple years ago, and who we are and what we do. To me, breaking the chains, for me, it's about getting a community together, and getting us to all, work on the same page. Um, Addicts, non-addicts, whoever, just getting us to work together to build a better community for our children, and our children's children, basically the future. Um, and that's what it means to me. So, in order to do that, the community has to come together and work as one. We got to try to get addicts clean, um, and get them living a better life so they can teach their kids better. So that's the overall goal for me. Long-term goal, we want to open up our own sober living house. We're going to call it Wendy's House. That's the plan for next year. So that's what we're working towards. And in the meantime, we do fundraisers. We hold events. We hold 2 events a year. We also collaborate with Midshore Restoring Hope in Women. When we have those events and the money that we raise from those events, that's where it goes. So just so you guys know, just a little background on what Breaking the Chains is, and when we started, and what we do. We also sell t-shirts. Same thing, money goes to Midshore Restoring Hope in Women. But here soon, we're going to get our own account started for Breaking the Chains, and we're going to start working towards getting our own sober living house. Um, for a lot of us, we all know there's a shortage of sober living houses, and especially in small towns, but just in general, um, a lot of people have to go, long distance to even get a sober living house. For us on the Eastern Shore, most of the people that I know, when I was, fresh in my journey, most of the people that I know, they had to go across the bridge. They had to go to the other side of Maryland to even get into a sober living house. So we want to build something local and have something local in our communities. Um, so that way, for mothers especially, so they don't have to be so far away from their children. So if they're trying to get clean, and that could be a deterrent for them, they might not want to get clean because they don't want to be so far away from their kids. So, that's kind of the full scope of what we are, who we are, and what we do. Um, my drug of choice is alcohol. That's what I've always had a problem with. I started drinking when I was like 15, and by the time I was 19 or 20, I realized I had an issue. I'm 30 now, and it took me a while to get sober. So I started my recovery journey about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Um, and right now, I have 7 months, coming up on 8 months sober. Um, so, I started this 3 years ago, and I talked with you guys about, the relapse that I had and why, and my experience with that. It was a while. It was 7, 8 months ago. Um, yeah, in a lot of places, it's a shortage. It's a shortage in that, and if we can work together with the court systems, and I just want to see like true rehabilitation. Like same thing. For drug dealers and for drug addicts, for anybody struggling, I want to see real rehabilitation. I feel like a lot of times the court system doesn't really look into your backstory, or they don't really care why you're doing what you're doing. They just want to hand down punishments. Um, so I would like to see rehabilitation, true rehabilitation for addicts and dealers, because the dealers need help too. They're struggling too. A lot of us aren't far apart, and a lot of addicts were also dealers at one point in time. Um, so I just want to see my community that I grew up in. I just want to see it healed. I want to see dealers learn that there's a better way in life, and risking my freedom and time with my kids and time with my family is not worth what I'm doing. There's a better way. I want addicts to know that there's a better way um, to heal yourself. You don't have to self-medicate. There's better ways to enjoy your life and have fun. You don't have to do drugs or drink all the time to enjoy your life. And as we go on through our lives, we realize that, when we're young and immature, it might be fun, but later on it turns into a hindrance. It prevents us from enjoying our lives. But we're so used to doing it that we can't break away. So that's kind of what this topic is about, is how, I feel like this topic to me means that we were looking for something different in our lives, and we found it in drugs and alcohol. And then once we realized, like, this isn't for me, like, yeah, this is fun and everything, but now it's not fun. I've talked about my past and my history. My mom was a on and off again drug addict. My dad was an alcoholic. My grandfather, he was an alcoholic. My uncles, my grandmother, all across my family line, there's a problem with drugs and alcohol. However, I don't look at it like hereditary. I look at it like a community problem. I look at it like, not to get into the disease and choice shit, but to me, I feel like, we talked about in school when we were kids, we learned nature versus nurture, right? I would like to think that it's more so nurture, because as a culture, we associate alcohol, especially, with, being social, having a good time, coming down from a work week, enjoying yourself as a teenager. We just, as a culture, we associate alcohol with all these different things. And now as a culture too, we also associate that with drugs. Since the 70s, drugs got introduced into it, and drugs became a social scene. So it doesn't matter what you believe. If you believe you have a disease or you don't, the facts are that you can make a lot of progress if you heal the community. You're going to be what you see. That's just kind of what I believe. If you grow up around drugs and alcohol, and your community uses drugs and alcohol as a way to release and have fun, which most people do. That's how most people start. So it's just like, it's hard for you to be that one person that doesn't give in. It's easy to fall into it. Now there are people who don't fall into it, who actually resent it, and they go the opposite way, and that's great. But not enough of us do that. I resented my dad for his alcohol abuse and the consequences that came with it, but I still became an alcoholic, even though I hated him for it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't really, it's not likely that you're gonna be that type of person. Like I said, my grandfather was alcoholic, so my dad modeled him and became an alcoholic. But his sister and his brother, they went the opposite way. They don't abuse drugs and alcohol, and they didn't go down that pathway. So that'll shoot your disease theory in the foot right there. But it doesn't really matter what you believe. The debates are pointless. It's all about a solution. And to me, it doesn't matter what you think, whether you think it's nature or nurture. It's how can we fix this? What can we do to change this? And to me, it just starts with the community working together as a whole. There's a lot of stuff going on right now with my partner made a video about it and a post about it, where she said that she doesn't believe that a drug dealer who sold somebody drugs and they overdosed, she doesn't believe, and I back this because I've said it for years, but she doesn't believe that they deserve life sentences. And it's not, it's not fair it's also not fair to the community. I look at it like from this perspective. Addicts want sympathy, correct? They want sympathy because of what they're struggling with and what they're going through. They want people to understand them, but then there's no sympathy and understanding for somebody who's selling drugs to support his family because there's no jobs in his community, And that's what he learned from his family. That's what he learned from his people. And like I said, a lot of us as addicts and alcoholics and people who grew up in that same community, a lot of us had our hands in those type of activities too. So I don't care if all you sold was one thing so you could get your thing. You still participated. And you wouldn't want somebody to hand you down a life sentence because I feel like the person that's using is responsible for their choices and their actions as grown-ups. Now, let's just say you sold drugs to a minor and a minor died. That's different. To me, that's different. That's a whole different ball game. But as consenting adults, we know our choices that we're making. And I don't feel like it's appropriate to punish someone else for the decisions that we've made in our lives. Number one, it throws accountability out the window, because you're making that man hold accountability for what he did, but you're not holding any accountability for what you did, because and once you're dead, there's no accountability for you. You lost your life, right? Once you OD and pass away, you pay. You're paying for yours. You're gone. But what good is it to take out two people? One person loses their life and their family suffers. Another man gets put in jail for 20 plus years, 15 plus years. His life is over. His kids suffer. When we could, yes, punish them, but give them a chance to rehabilitate. This doesn't go, for third strikes or people who just don't want to change. But I'm saying I feel like the system is so quick to hand out excessive time for petty street dealers, and it's just, to me, it's counterproductive. It's not really gonna solve anything, because they're a part of our community too. They have children too. They have people that love them and care about them too. And I don't feel like somebody, that person's struggling too. So I don't feel like somebody that's struggling and going through a hard time, just as you are, deserves to have their life taken away from them and deserves to get handed down a life sentence just because you made a bad choice to put drugs into your body. To me, ignorance is bliss, right? But we all know that you're playing a dangerous game when you abuse drugs and alcohol. And nobody's given the guy who runs the liquor store, the guy who owns the liquor store, nobody's given him a manslaughter charge when he sells. Somebody pulls up into his parking lot drunk. They walk into the liquor store drunk. He saw him pull in drunk, sells him a bottle of liquor, another bottle, when he's already drunk. He gets in his truck. He goes out and kills somebody. And are we going to give that guy, are we going to give the guy at the liquor store a manslaughter charge? No. So it's just, to me, I feel like it's a deeper issue. I feel like there's a deeper issue here with, I just feel like it tears the community apart even more when you have that type of mind state. I know it's hard. I know it's complicated to figure out, how then what do we do? How do we deter people from doing this? Well, you deter people from doing this by building a better community. Where's the role models in the community? Where did they go? Most of our ancestors, or our people that would be our role models, are doing drugs and drinking too. So it's really a community issue. It's not necessarily it's not a drug dealer versus drug addict. It's not a, cop versus drug dealer. It's just, to me, it just tears the community apart. Like, all these people are a part of the community, and they're all fighting amongst themselves, and nothing's changing on the grand scope of things. If anything, the problem's increasing. So why would you? I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of talking about it, but I don't agree with that opinion. It's not mine. I don't share it. I don't agree with it. A lot of people that I knew were addicts also sold drugs. So to me, it's just stupid. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you want two lives to be lost. Um, yeah, over serving at a bar. I'm an alcoholic, so I know this personally. I've pulled up. I got 3 DUIs. Luckily for me, they never resulted in a car accident. Now I have wrecked my car drunk plenty of other times, but never wrecked with another car. Um, so you know, I've walked in liquor stores drunk as shit in my car. I pulled up in my car right at the front of the door, and they've sold me alcohol, and nobody held them accountable. Nobody went to them and didn't investigate. You know what I mean? It's just like, um, I don't think it's basically like big business versus what, it's like, to me, it's just, I don't know, regardless of how you look at it. I'm not saying that, you want to lock somebody up for possession or distribution, okay, but you don't got to give the man a manslaughter charge because somebody, you know used drugs and overdosed. It's not their, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, who are we placing blame at? This person chose to buy it. This person chose to use it, knowing the potential of overdosing. We all know the potential. We all know what's happening out here. Um, and to me, it's like a mutual agreement. I'm selling you this. Use with caution. What does it say on alcohol? Drink responsibly. You know, and if you get some bad drugs, 9 times out of 10, the street dealer didn't make them bad. You know what I'm saying? They don't know. So you think, so just from common sense, you think street dealers are really trying to kill you? Why would they kill off their customers? Why would they want to kill their customers? It makes no sense. So I'm done talking about that. But regardless, I feel like we gotta work together as a community, and we all got to get on the same page. Um, we all got to come to a point of maturity in our life where we realize that there's a better way. Life is better without it. Um, life is better without doing 2 to 5 year sentences over and over and over again as a dealer. Life is better than being blacked out or passed out or nodding out and not being there for your children. You going to jail yourself because, most of the people that are sitting in jail have drug problems. They're not violent criminals, um, the majority of them. And, you're getting taken away, you're getting put in the system. In turn, your kids are in the system. Um, how's that fun? What do you enjoy out of that? And people always talk about, like the rock bottom thing, like when you hit your rock bottom. Um, and, to me, it's like rock bottom is just when you finally realize that you've had enough. When you finally realize that I'm tired of living like this, and this is not, you just finally get to the point where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Um, and for a lot of us, it's like we just get so stuck we get stubborn that we remember maybe the first couple years of this that it was fun, right? Nobody's gonna lie and say it wasn't. Um, as an alcoholic, I thought I was making some of my best memories, drinking. I had a lot of friends. I was hanging out with a lot of people. A lot of people started to, get a better idea of who I was because I was more social, and um, I was enjoying myself because, number one, like I said, I was socializing more. And number two, um, I didn't care about my choices, so I was being more wild. I was making more rash decisions, and it was fun. The rush that came from that was fun. From, doing things that I shouldn't have done and that I shouldn't have been doing. It was fun. Um, but once you get to a certain point in time, it's like the bad outweighs the fun by so much that you got to just make the proper decision and understand that, okay, I'm tired of living like this. You know what I mean? This is not benefiting me. This is not fun anymore. Um, it's not fun fighting with my wife. It's not fun getting in fist fights with my family members and my brother. And, it's not fun, waking up, throwing up all the time. It's not fun getting arrested and going to jail. None of that shit's fun. What's fun about that? What comes out of that? I wasted so much of my life, chasing something that gave me nothing back. So, to me, it's just, I understand, like, and it's a progressive, like, if you're one of those people that believe it's a disease, which I don't agree or disagree. I just like to put a lot of emphasis on your decisions and holding yourself accountable and being responsible for the choices that you make. So I can argue either point. It doesn't really matter. But if you're one of those people who believe that it's a disease, whether it's a disease or just an addiction, it's very progressive. I remember I was drunk one day and I was sitting at the table with my grandmother, who was also a real bad alcoholic when she was, you know, but she had been sober for a long time, and she was ill. So I was over there sitting with her, talking to her. And once she started getting sick, she kind of lost her filter. So she would just say whatever. And she just kind of looked at me and was like, I know we've all had this problem, but I've never seen it progress so quickly in somebody before. And it just kind of like made me feel like, damn, like my mom would never, she'd always tell me how proud she was. She kind of just ignored it, like pretended like I didn't drink or had a problem. Um, and I'm sure that was hard for her, but at that point in time, she was just like, you know, she was looking at me like, you got a problem. I've never seen it get so bad in somebody so quick. And these are like the little things as I started to go, like, damn, this ain't fun no more. I lost a lot of money. I lost my cars. I lost my license. I lost a lot of freedoms. What, like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Um, and I remember talking to my mom and telling her when she was trying to get clean, like, aren't you tired? Don't you just want to be able to sit down and watch a TV show and eat a plate of good food and enjoy it? You know what I mean? Don't you just want to spend time with your family members and actually enjoy it and not be thinking about something else, or be all depressed and sad because you're living a fucked up life, and that you're juggling being an addict and trying to be a mother and a grandmother? Aren't you tired? And I used to always tell my mom too, like, what are you gonna find that's brand new out there? My mom, she passed away when she was 49, so she's been here for a while, right? She grew up back in the day. And I asked her, I'm like, you've been doing this shit for so fucking long. Like, what are you looking for? Like, what are you gonna find that's brand new? What are you gonna do that's new? What are you gonna discover that's new for it? Nothing. Nothing's brand new about it. It's gonna be the same thing every time. And when I drank the last time, I realized that, it's like, when I used to drink it, I felt like I had these like big extravagant weekends, right? But as time went on, I started just having maybe 2 okay hours where I felt a nice buzz, and then I black out and I don't remember shit and I wake up hungover. Wow, what's so fun about that? Because I was a quick drinker, I would drink a lot quickly. So, I might be buzzed for an hour and then I reach the point of blacking out and then I don't remember anything. So, like, what's fun about that? What's the point in that? There's no point to it. So, once we get into recovery, we have to constantly remind ourselves that, and be real with ourselves, and tell ourselves, like, this is not for me anymore. And you got to be honest. You can't just, a lot of us, when we first get clean or we first get sober, number one, forever seems like a long time. It seems impossible. It puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on us. And number two, when we look back, we kind of overlook all the bad shit, and we just start to remember like those couple good nights we had, or that time we had this great time or whatever, and alcohol was involved or drugs were involved. And then you make the bad choice, you go back out there because you're like, maybe I can have those times again. And then you go down the spiral, and you mess your life up some more, and then you come back and you do it all over again. It's like, at some point in time, we got to stop doing it all over again. We got to remember the bad times, and tell ourselves that it's not worth the risk trying to capture one good moment and creating all this chaos and all this turmoil and all this problem, all these problems with our loved ones and our family members and our community and people around us. One like key point is, it's I talked about how when I first started drinking, I started making new friends. Towards the end of my drinking, I started losing friends and making new enemies. So it's like that should tell you something right there. That should tell you all you need to know right there. Um, and that's kind of what I wanted to drive home. Like I said, I started this journey 3 years ago. This has easily been the best 3 years of my life, easily, and it happened quick. Like the moment I got away from it and started working towards my future and my life and my real life, life just got better overnight. And I told myself these lies when I was drinking, like, hey, this is just the way my life's gonna be. This is the way it was for all my people. This is just how it is for me. I'm predetermined to be in this position. Even though I went to college, even though I had a chance to do something with my life, I pissed it away and lied to myself and told me, like, yeah, it's just the way it is for me. My family just is like this. This is just how we are. And we sell ourselves short. We beat ourselves down so we don't ever want a better life. And that's something that we got to start, turning around is, you can achieve things. You do have worth. You gotta value yourself, because it is possible. You know, Try to keep everything in perspective. I see on a lot of these like groups or whatever, people will share Robert Downey Jr. or John Goodman or whoever the fuck, and they'll share like, oh, they've been sober this long, or they were struggling with drugs and alcohol and they got clean, and look at what they accomplished. So apply that to your life. Apply that to your life. They're not special. They're not special people. They don't have some magic sauce or some magic answer. You know what I mean? That's what you can achieve just the same. You can achieve anything else that you want to if you just stop wasting time on drugs and alcohol and apply yourself. You know, Give yourself a chance. You're not even giving yourself a chance when you're always high, or you're always drunk, or you're always in jail, or you're always locked up, or you're always getting arrested, or you're always on probation. You know what I mean? You're not even giving yourself a chance, and life is flying by you. I always talked about, for the dealers. I always talked about like the whole thing is money, right? How much money you can make. But if you add up your jail time, all the time you've served in jail, let's say you had a 10-year run and you add up all your jail time and you add up your street time and you log the money that you made and divide it through your jail time and your street time, you didn't make shit. You didn't make nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be honest with yourself. But they tell themselves the same lies too. They tell themselves, this is the only way, and I can make all this money, but they're not real with themselves. They're not honest. They don't sit down and do the numbers of how long they were incarcerated and how much they didn't make while they were locked away. They also don't factor into, time away from their family, time away from their kids, time away from society and being behind the 8 ball because you've been out so long and you never had a job. It's going to be hard for you to get a job now. But we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to say, I made this choice. I didn't have to do this. I could apply myself in school. I could have did better. I could go to tech school and get a job, learn a trade. There's a lot of jobs that don't care about your background, that pay decent money, good money even. So it's just a lot to think about. But to me, in order for any of this to be possible, I feel like we have to come together as a community. And we have to all work together and stop fighting amongst ourselves. People who are for the methadone program and against it, stop fighting amongst yourselves. Who gives a shit? People who hate the drug dealers and people who, want the drug dealers to have rehabilitation. Stop fighting amongst yourselves. You're not going to get anything accomplished by fighting amongst yourselves. I've said it in my past videos. If you really want to address the problem and you really want to make an impact in your community and you want to get a seat at the table, you can't be divided. You can't have division in a cause and expect for them to ever give you a seat at that table, because they're going to let the people in the cause just keep fighting amongst themselves, running themselves in a big old circle while they just sit back and pad their pockets and nothing changes for them. They don't have to make any changes. They don't have to do anything to fix anything, because the people that are fighting for the cause can't even come together and be organized. There's too much division going on. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I just don't. I seen a post the other day about this guy who said he got kicked out of the group because he got in an argument, I guess, with one of the people who run the page. I don't know, but he said they got into an argument because he just didn't like one of his opinions, and they because he didn't like his opinion, he booted him from the group. It's like, really, man? Like, you can't. We got to be able to have a difference of opinion, but still know that we have the same destination in mind, and say, well, you can take your following and you can push that way, and I'll take my following and we can push this way, but we can still get at the top of the triangle. We can still get to where we need to go together, without division, without fighting, without like, hey, this is what I believe and I'm gonna try it this way. That's what you believe. Take you and yours and you try that way. It's many ways of getting the same thing done. Just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that you have to have hatred for them, or you have to fight them or argue with them. It's just is what it is. Not everybody's going to agree. But that's kind of where I wanted to end the video. Just know that, if you're sober, or if you're contemplating getting sober, or if you're clean or contemplating getting clean, or if you're struggling and you're fresh into your journey, just ride the shit out. Ride it out. It's worth it. And be real with yourself. Instead of sitting back romancing the shit, sit back and be real with yourself and be honest, and remember all those bad times. Remember all those nights that shit wasn't good for you. And that's the reality of it. At some point in time, there's more bad things coming out of it than there is good things, and that's when you need to make the mature decision and say, okay, this isn't for me anymore. I need to move on. It's like a bad relationship, or the only difference is there's a possibility you could ride a bad relationship out and it turn out into a beautiful relationship. But with drugs and alcohol, that's never going to be a beautiful relationship. It's never going to happen. It's impossible. It will never happen. So just be honest with yourself and make sure you know that. And if you got kids, your kids don't deserve it. You don't want them to be, struggling with the same things when they're your age. You don't want that for your kids. I know no parent on this earth that's a good parent wants that for their children. So we got to be the examples, and we got to be the role models, and, be an influence in our kids' lives, a positive one. So that's where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you thought it was useful, you can share it out if you want. I always say, too, if you want to, you can add me on my personal page. Send me a friend request. I'll accept it. If you need anything, you can message me. I'll try to talk through anything I can with you. But you got to do the work. Just remember that. I can't twist your wrists and make you do anything. So just make sure when you come to me that you're ready to put in some action. So y'all have a good day and stay clean and stay sober.